99 of the best Fortnite pros across the world are competing right now for $2 million at FNCS Global Finals, and these are 6 of the best player setups there that I'm going to try in this video. From Reet, Rito, and Pump's controllers to Peterbot, Mr. Savage's, and Chris's keyboard and mouse. Each one of these setups is super unique, and at the end of this video, I'll be ranking the #1 pro Fortnite setup. And it took me over 3 hours to find every pro setup, so please consider dropping a like and subscribing. So starting with the first pro player setup out of 6 different pro setups I'll be trying in this video is Mr. Savage's keyboard and mouse. He uses this keyboard called the G915 Lightspeed TKL from Logitech, which is way different from most gaming keyboards. And he also uses the Logitech G Pro X Superlight 2 mouse, but he actually uses the Dex version, which pretty much just gives it a fatter bottom grip. Now, out of all the pros, Mr. Savage is the only player I saw that uses this keyboard. And the reason I say this is the weirdest keyboard is because the keys are so low profile. Usually when you have a keyboard that's this thin with the keycaps that short, that means it's way better for like productivity in typing, and it's not necessarily meant for gaming. But honestly, now that I'm trying it for gaming, I don't hate it. I actually kind of like it. However, it's still way different than the keyboards the other pros in this video are going to be using. But right now in this reload game, honestly, it feels good. Every time I push a key, it has a really like clicky and tactile feel to it. And honestly, because I'm still more of a keyboard and mouse beginner, I actually have a lot of issues on the taller keycaps with fat fingering extra keys I didn't mean to press. Like, because the binds that I use, especially when I try to do triple edits, I accidentally fat finger my spacebar and jump so often. But because all these keys are so low profile, that's not happening. I'm sure keyboard and mouse pros that have been on keyboard and mouse for years have probably just adapted if they don't have that same issue, but I'm actually enjoying gaming on this keyboard way more than I thought I would. And as for the mouse, while a ton of other pros use this same mouse, including Peterbot coming up later in this video, I have to wonder why Mr. Savage uses the Dex version instead of the normal version like everyone else. I mean, even his keyboard's kind of out of the ordinary and possibly might be more for comfort, so I guess his mouse is probably the same thing. It's probably just for comfort. Now switching gears to controller, Reet is one of only 5 controller pros to make it to globals, and if any controller player is going to win or place in the top 3, it's him. And his entire global setup is just this controller. It's called the Scuff Reflex FPS, and it's a PS5 controller with instant mouse click triggers. It has a taller right stick, a rubber texture grip on the back, and 4 paddles. But Reet actually doesn't use any of the 4 paddles, and instead he plays right hand claw. Reet could technically just use a regular PS5 controller and probably be fine, but because he plays in lobbies against the top keyboard and mouse players in the game, he needs every advantage he can get. So the instant triggers giving him faster inputs and the taller right stick giving him more control is helpful when you're playing for millions of dollars. And honestly, those triggers especially are probably one of the reasons why he's the fastest controller player in the world right now. Just watching him play is insane to think that he's doing this stuff on controller. But as you can tell from my gameplay right now, I suck at playing claw. So the next pro setup is from Rito, who actually uses the same exact controller, the Scuff Reflex FPS. However, even though Reet and Rito are on the same exact controller, the big difference is Rito does not play claw at all, and instead he actually does use the paddles on the back. Now, if you've never heard of Rito, it's probably because he's a huge pro from Japan. And after this global championship, you'll probably know who he is because his team is conning Peterbot, Cold, and Ritual at Dystopia City. And I'm not gonna lie, as a controller player myself, I'll be rooting for Rito to take down Peterbot. That would just be so crazy. Now, out of the 99 pro players that are at globals, only 5 of them are on controller, which honestly in 2025 is not that bad. There's not that many good controller players left. However, every single one of these 5 controller pros plays on either claw or paddles. It's because playing on a standard controller without playing claw or using paddles is basically impossible to keep up with how fast the keyboard and mouse players are now. Like, imagine you're box fighting Peterbot, and every time you want to jump, you have to stop aiming and click X. It's literally just not possible to be as fast as keyboard and mouse. And even out of the pro players that do use claw and paddles, it's still very hard to keep up with these keyboard and mouse pros. It's why only 5 of them are in. And the pro setups in the rest of this video are only going to continue to get crazier. Between Peterbot's famous setup, Pump's controller, and even Chris's keyboard and mouse, there's still a lot more to show. But while I play on Raito's setup, let me tell you about the sponsor of this part of the video, War Thunder. It's a really immersive combat game where you can take command of thousands of different realistic functioning war machines. Like, you can use modern fighter jets and tanks, and even go all the way back to the 1920s and use armored cars and biplanes to fight in PvP style historic military battles. I think it's really fun to drive around in all the different decades of war machines, so definitely give it a shot. And it's heavily optimized, so no matter how bad your console or PC is, you'll still get a lag-free, high FPS immersive experience. War Thunder has over 95 million players, and it's available for completely free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile. Sign up with the links in my description for a huge bonus pack with 7 days of premium account, 100,000 silver lions, and the Eagle of Valor decoration for a limited time only. And that sign up bonus is for any new or returning after 6 months players for PCs and consoles only. Now back to keyboard and mouse. For the setup of the player, Raito will be contesting potentially the back-to-back global champion, Peterbot, who uses a setup that looks like this. It's the SteelSeries Apex Pro TKL gaming keyboard and the Logitech G Pro X Superlight 2 gaming mouse. Now originally, I actually thought this was Peterbot's like signature setup, like only he used it. But while I was researching all the pros that are at globals right now, I found out that alongside Peterbot, other players that use this same exact setup are Acorn, Rapid, Vaniac, Malibuca, Tayson, Merstache, Queasy, and that's not even all of them. There are so many pros that are using the Apex Pro TKL paired with the G Pro Superlight 2. And actually, I know why. Just last week, I spent a full 3 days grinding Fortnite on Peterbot Setup, copying his exact binds, his exact sense, and of course, even the same keyboard and mouse he uses, and it actually felt really nice. The sound on the keyboard is actually dampened, so it's not going to be one of those super loud, ear-piercing, clicky sounds, which when you're playing in a pro lobby, you have to constantly talk back and forth with your teammates. If your keyboard is louder than your voice is, that's obviously not going to work well. However, that's just one small part of it, because it's still satisfying while you're playing on, and this keyboard has something called rapid triggering, which actually makes a difference. Specifically on my edit key, which is G, I noticed as soon as I turned on rapid trigger, I could do triple edits and quad edits a lot more consistently. They just felt faster. This mouse is of course also the same mouse that I was using with Mr. Savage's setup, but Peterbot doesn't use the Dex version, he just uses the regular version. And it is pretty light as well, at only 60 grams. It has a sturdy build, all the clicks feel really nice, and the mouse wheel has a solid feel to it. The 2 side buttons on the mouse are all you really need, and with the wireless specs of 8,000 Hz, smooth gliding, no acceleration or filtering, I definitely see why it ranks as the #1 mouse at globals this year. And remember, there's still 2 global pro Fortnite player setups that I'm trying in this video, and I'm going to rank the best one at the end, so make sure to keep watching. Pump has hands down the most shocking FNCS global setup out of all 99 players. Pump's $2 million tournament setup is an Xbox controller. It has 0 features. It's the same controller you unbox with your Xbox, but he does play right-hand claw. And even with the claw, it's honestly insane because not a single, literally 0 other pro controller players use Xbox. I mean, Reet, Raito, Miro, Teeny, literally anyone you can think of plays on either a PS4 or PS5 PlayStation controller. But Pump, since day one, has remained loyal to his claw Xbox One controller setup. Personally, I love pro controllers, and I think something like a Scuff is 100% worth it to get better. But at the same time, I also think it's really cool to still have players like Pump competing on the biggest stage in the world for millions of dollars with the same exact controller that millions of kids have at home. It didn't cost him hundreds of dollars to gain an unfair advantage, and even Miro did the same thing 2 years ago by winning globals on just a regular PS4 controller with claw grip. I mean, it just proves that literally anyone has a chance to make it big. And now for one final setup before I give my full 2025 Global Championship setup ranking, we have Chris. If you don't know who this is, honestly, I didn't either, but he trios with Tayson and Chico, and he has $90,000 in Fortnite tournament earnings. And I found that he's the only pro at Globals to be using the Razer Huntsman V3 Pro TKL keyboard. And he pairs his Razer keyboard with another mouse that I have not tried so far, the Razer Viper V3 Pro. Now, somehow I got lucky and actually had this keyboard laying under my bed, but I'll be honest, this is not the same mouse that he uses. Even though this is a Razer mouse, the Razer Viper V3 Pro that he uses is actually a really popular mouse that even players like Poyo use. And it's honestly been so long since I've used this keyboard, and I don't ever remember even using this mouse. So I kind of remember nothing about this. I feel like my first impression with this keyboard is when I clicked down the keys, it almost felt cheap. Like it kind of has that hollow sound that a lot of those cheap keyboards have. But the more that I use it, the more that I'm realizing it's actually really good. The keys are definitely louder than the Apex Pro TKL, but they're still not loud enough to where like it interfere with your comms. And I think going by pure looks, this keyboard looks really cool. The RGB is cool. I like the volume knob on the top right. I think it has a lot of function built in. Like I showed off that rapid trigger and snap tap and all of that, but I think there's even like built-in macros to it. And I'm actually kind of surprised how much I like this keyboard. It does feel really nice. As for the mouse, again, this is like a Razer Death Adder. It is not the Razer Viper V3 Pro. That thing's wireless. It has way better specs. And I can even tell just while I'm like tracking these players with this mouse, you can see how like choppy it is. I literally cannot move this mouse smoothly across the screen to track players. But I know for a fact it would be way smoother if I had the correct Razer Viper V3 Pro, which I'm actually gonna go get soon. Besides the Logitech Superlight, the Viper V3 Pro is 100% the second most popular gaming mouse at Globals. But I unfortunately could not get it in time for this video. However, even with this mouse, I'm still kind of crushing this lobby. And this keyboard actually also does come with a magnetic built-in wrist rest, which I forgot. The Apex Pro TKL also comes with a built-in magnetic wrist rest, but I don't think almost any pros actually use the wrist rest. I think they feel that it like limits their movement and they just feel more free without the wrist rest. They like it more, especially because most pros tilt their keyboards way more than I have mine tilted right now. Like some of these pros play with their keyboard almost at a full 90-degree angle, which is just crazy to me. But I actually really like this setup too. I mean, it makes sense that I like all of the setups, because if you're one of 99 of the top Fortnite players across the entire world, chances are you've probably put some investment into your setup and made it really good. And this mouse kind of has like a unique ergonomic shape to it. It's kind of fatter. The side buttons are even fatter. I don't hate it, but I'd be really curious to check out the Viper V3 Pro. So my official ranking has the Scuff Reflex FPS as the #1 Globals controller setup, and the Apex Pro TKL and the Logitech G Pro X Superlight 2 as the #1 mouse and keyboard global setup. And remember to go play War Thunder for free on PC, consoles, and mobile with the links in my description. You get that big bonus pack to get you a head start, and it's a new free game to try out. Thanks again to War Thunder, and click here to watch me learn keyboard and mouse on Peterbot Setup for 3 days, or click here to see me try the top 4 most popular pro controllers.